And here's a conversation I recently had with Tracy Nigg, a social worker in one of our area high schools, talking about the importance of a mental health emergency action plan and how to create one if your school doesn't already have one.
So I think what we're really interested in here is I get asked a lot of questions oftentimes by coaches with, what do we do? What do we do if there's a crisis? What do we do if someone's crying even? What do we do? Tell me what to say, how to handle this. And my response most of the time is, well, it depends. And that's really annoying for most people. But you have shared a little bit with me your role in developing a concrete, at least a pretty solid plan in place for your school about what to do in terms of a crisis, either during hours and after hours. And I want to really break that down for anyone who might be listening with some of these same questions. So let's start, talk about the process, and I'll kind of jump in and ask some more questions as we go. Is that a fair place to start?
Yes.
Okay.
I think one of the biggest things that has had to happen over the past few years is just building that relationship with coaches to remind them that there is support and help for when these situations occur. I don't think I could even have a plan or work on a plan until I had coach buy-in. So I think stepping back before there is even this plan is saying, hearing the coaches tell you what they see, what they know, and they'll tell you what you're looking for in just how they want to help. Coaches serve their kids. They want their kids to be high performing. They want them to do well. They want them to be successful, but then they are very tangible people. So my dad is a 69-year-old man, and he has been a coach his whole life. And that's where I first figured this out, was he knew how to help when a kid needed shoes, but he didn't know how to help when a kid couldn't put his words to his feelings. And he wanted to, and he wanted to merge that, but instead he would just show up with more shoes. So, coaches want something tangible or something they can apply right then. So what I found from talking to them is they just wanted a point of contact. They want to be able to tell the athlete, hey, this is okay. I'm going to get you help. I'm going to take you to talk to somebody that I know and trust. And your coach is your greatest facilitator in the help seeking process, because athletes just develop a unique relationship with their coaches based on trust and that human connection. And in that, it's just that environment. They're just, there's that role modeling and respect that's built. So if you have your coach buy in to then the help seeking process, that's how you can connect the athlete with the mental health provider. So whether that be a counselor, social worker, school psychologist in general, whoever, as long as we have a professional that's in mental health. So I'd say it started with coach buy-in, moved then into helping them know who their tangible source was, their point of contact. And then I also ended up talking to our athletic trainer, because if you think about the construct of the school day, you have your mental health and support staff here from 8 to 3:10. They leave by 3:30, practice starts. Okay, whatever happens between 3:30 and 8, that's no one knows. So your point of contact for any physical injury becomes your athletic trainer. So typically what happens if there's a crisis and there's the heavy breathing or the symptoms that occur that are more physical, the athletic trainer gets involved. So when you have your trainer then aware of also who's the mental health point of contact, which they respect and appreciate too, because this gets a little outside of their realm. They want to have a point of contact. You can just see how this like interdisciplinary support system occurs, because the athletic trainer wants mental health support. The coaches want mental health support. They just need that person there to do it and to respond at that critical time. We can't wait, but how do we have that emergency response at critical time to de-escalate and make the student feel heard and supported? So usually what happens is the athletic trainer gets the student athlete, we get them to a safe place, or we keep them calm. We make sure that they're stayed with. And then oftentimes that coach or the athletic trainer will reach out to me. And then unfortunately, I'm usually coaching at the same time, but thankfully I also have assistants. So we, and my athletes are pretty self-disciplined. Again, it's cross country, we're running, but I could be 4 miles away. So we figure it out. So typically what happens, we either process on the phone with the athletic trainer, or I can, until I can get back, we work through anything that we can, kind of figure out what the underlying issues are. And typically from there, we do our normal crisis response that we would have during our regular school day, whether that be any of our suicide protocols, or just reaching out to parents, or if it's a type of reporting situation, just getting to the root of the issue. So follow up there can be a little tricky because, you know, your security's off or things like that. But honestly, it's just meeting the student. It's responding at that critical point when they need you, and then giving coaches and the athletic trainer that point of contact. And then if it gets really dicey, I call my athletic director, and like every time something occurs, we make sure that he's aware of what's going on, just because we need to make sure they're safe and cover ourselves as well, and documentation is good. And then we have an overall awareness of how often this is even occurring, which students are in need, which students need followed up with, and then it continues up the chain of command of making sure administration knows and all too. So that's pretty much how it works.
And you have communicated this to all of your coaches?
Mhm.
And talk to me about that process, about getting everybody on the same page, and how you do that communicating.
At the beginning of the year, we do a all coaches meeting, and I talked to our athletic trainer in length multiple times, and he's completely all in with this. And so he gave me time to present on why we are doing this, and then how to utilize me at those times. He's an advocate for the mental health side of our athletes and their social emotional development. So he's big on that, which gets some buy-in from coaches that way too. And then honestly, I go to a lot of things. I go to wrestling tournaments, I go to basketball games, I go talk to them. I go talk to coaches in their teaching time. Like, well, I just maintain that connection, whether I'm at a game or I'll talk to them about an outcome of a game. But they see me as a coach too. So we'll talk coaching strategies, or we'll talk, you know, coach challenges, because they relate to me because I'm a fellow coach. So I think there's sometimes where that disconnect can happen with a mental health professional that isn't also a coach. We can merge that, but it's going to be making yourself available. It's going to be putting your face out there. It's going to be showing that you care about their sport, their athletes, their team, because we get really like protective of our teams. They're our kids. They're our, our little family. So if you go and make those connections, and you hear them and you respond when they need you, the one time they ask you to come and you don't come, they're not going to ask you again.
Well, that was going to be my next question, Tracy, is let's say on a it's post-COVID now, fantasy question. You're on a beach in Cancun with 0 cell service.
Yep.
And it's basketball season. Someone's overwhelmed in a situation that you described earlier. Then what would your staff do?
Honestly, I think the coaches have now gotten to a point where they know they can reach out to the athletic trainer, and if they can get the student de-escalated enough, or like feeling safe enough, then they'll save it to process with the counselor or the other social workers or any other support staff the next day. I think that crisis time, it will just end up, if I'm not there, they just go to an even higher level of reporting, whether that be safety services. It's just not as personal. So because the students know who I am and they've seen me in the building, it's not as personal for them, but they still have to go to the side of safety, right? Safety first. And yeah, I think the ideal situation is that it's somebody that coach knows and the student knows. But if it's not, then they'll just keep going out until they find somebody they can reach out to. And usually it just goes back to former ways where we just contact parent comes and picks them up. And there's not a whole lot of processing that occurs at that point. It's just getting the kid to a safe location and with people that we know.
And it's still a critical amount of time before the parent can come even, like that 15, 20 minutes, an hour before the parent gets there. that's a critical time where getting in front of someone who feels confident in asking hard questions,
Right.
and has basic active listening skills of naming a feeling, reflecting back to the student, getting on their level. I think those are really easy, teachable skills that athletic trainers can learn, coaches can learn,
Yeah.
so that that athlete then feels heard, feels valued, and feels safe in that moment. And that can really lay a lot of really important mental health groundwork if then we're talking about referring to a therapist or getting other help. So just to recap some of the stuff you've said, I heard it's really important for the mental health professional, social worker, school counselor, to build those relationships with the coaches, show interest, ask questions, just be around, show your face, destigmatize even maybe what a mental health professional looks like.
Right.
I don't have a beard and smoking a pipe and I'm gonna draw pictures of you while you sleep on my couch. No, that's not what it is anymore. We're normal people, but that also goes on the coach's side too. If I had an encouragement for a coach, I would say, go learn who your school social worker is. Who's your Tracy? Who's your Annie? Take that step in meeting them, ask them what their number is and get that in your phone. So this relationship building really goes two ways.
Yes.
But then also get the athletic trainer on board. My athletic trainers here are my best and biggest allies and my best eyes on the ground. I wouldn't be able to do my job effectively without them. And I'm sure you feel similarly with yours. And then create that sense of safety and security in the moment. So this is just a reminder and an encouragement for all of our coaches and administrators out there in the high schools around the state of Kansas, even in maybe especially in the more rural areas. You have someone if you don't know who your mental health providers are in the area, ask a doctor who they go to. They're out there. If you just ask the medical professionals where the mental health care is, they will be able to direct you. There are also, I think it's important to mention, there are free crisis hotlines, and we can put that, I don't know how bios work, or maybe even our tech people can get the number flashing on the screen right now. A lot of middle school to high school to college age folks are terrified of speaking to someone on the phone. So they've come up with text hotlines also, where you don't have to speak a single word. You can reach out for help through text. So I think the more we have these conversations, have a solid plan in place. You didn't explain, Tracy, a very complicated system.
No.
You've identified 2-3 people that each coach knows to help get them that help in those critical moments. And I think that's really important. This doesn't have to be a really complicated, intricate system. We need 2 numbers to call. So the coach can then make sure that athlete is secure and safe, and then go about their coaching duties.
Right.
Yeah. Any last things you want to add or clarify on, or whatever thoughts you had?
I think there's a common misconception that coaches may not want training in these areas, and they may not want to deal with the crisis or the mental health need, or even understanding how to do active listening or meet them on their level. And I think that's a major misconception. And I want to just encourage coaches that if this is something that they want and they want training in these areas, they need to continue to tell their athletic directors, they need to tell their administration, or even their trainers, because again, this is something that we could continue to expand on, and we can reach out to them. We don't go into coaching at the high school level and middle school level for the money and the glory. It's all about building relationships with kids and helping them to become fully functioning contributors to society. And we want them to be successful. So this social emotional piece and this self-awareness and this mental health awareness and destigmatization is only going to help them grow into fully functioning adults, but it's also going to increase their likelihood for success in college, decrease that likelihood of burnout that we mentioned before, help them learn a healthy balance and how to problem solve and how to communicate for themselves and advocate for themselves. If the more emotionally aware that they are, the more likely they are to be able to achieve what we're all really hoping for at the end of the day as coaches. So I would just say, don't let that misconception of, oh, they don't want that training. They do. They just may not really know what it looks like yet or how to put words to it. So we'll help you give the words to them and see that through.
And an interesting parallel process, right? Like coaches want to know how to do it. They want the help. They just maybe don't know how to ask. That's
Right.
what your 14-year-old might be going through also.
Right.
I need help. I don't know how to do this. I just don't know how to ask for it.
Right.
And that's when that comes out in the symptoms we see. So that's a really great point to remember, Tracy.
Yeah.
I hope we get to do this again. That's what I wanted to focus on now.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for your time. I know you're jumping from thing to thing.
Yeah.
But thank you again. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you for your passion in the field. It's amazing.
Thanks for even including me. I appreciate you hearing me out. So I'm happy to help as much as I can.
That's great. Thank you so much.